Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Cam Scott, and I'm the Manager of Community Planning here at the District of Saanich. So tonight's webinar, we're going to provide an overview of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, a bit of a presentation, and there'll be opportunity for you to ask some questions. Hoping that no one's power goes out, but thankful for you to join us tonight. Before we begin, I'm going to do the territorial acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the District of Saanich lies within the territories of the Lekwungen peoples, today represented by the Songhees and Esquimalt nations, and the Wasanich peoples represented by the Sartlet, Pakwachin, Sayout, Sycam, and Malahat nations. So the purpose of today's session, I'll just give you a little bit more over here before I pass it over to my colleague Abiola, is to provide some background and context on the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Why are we doing this? What's it all about? Provide an opportunity for you to ask questions, and then also share some of the avenues you might have you have available to find out more information and participate in the plan update as we're at the earlier stages now. There's three of us that are part of this webinar today. Myself, Abiola Falae, who is the planner and project lead for the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, and then Adam Smith, who's helping out with ensuring the webinar is running smoothly today. In terms of how the webinar is going to go and a couple of logistics, we're primarily asking for you to provide questions through the question and answer feature, which should be at the top of your screen. So if you click on that, a window will pop up on your left, or sorry, your right. And one of the things that we're asking for is when it pops up, there's an opportunity to start a discussion. If you pull down on the menu, it will give you an option to start a discussion or ask a question. If you go to the ask a question function, that's preferable. And when you ask a question, you can either ask it anonymously or under your name that you've logged in. So we'll primarily be answering questions at the end of the webinar, but feel free to input those questions at any time as they pop into your head. And you also have the ability to upvote using the thumbs up feature other people's questions if you have a similar question that you'd like to ask and you think they've kind of captured that fairly well. And those questions that have been upvoted more will be ones that we try to answer first. A couple other things to note is this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the website. So we'll post that afterwards. And if we happen to not have enough time to get to every question, I feel pretty confident we will be able to get to every question tonight. But if we don't, then we'll post some responses on the website as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague Abiola Falae, who will take you through the content portion of tonight's presentation.
Thank you very much, Cam, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'll be presenting the introduction to the update of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. And as Cam have mentioned earlier, tonight's meeting is an opportunity to learn about the update, as well as opportunities to participate. And we'll be receiving questions as well, as described earlier by Cam. In the presentation, I'll give a brief background to the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, and I'll move on to talk about the outcomes of the plan, which was adopted 7 years ago. Then I'll move on to discuss the strategic update that we will be embarking on, which has started and will continue for the next 9 months. It's a total of an 11-month process. Then I'll move on to provide additional detail on the planning process and the timeline and what to expect in the current phase of the update, which is the evaluation stage. As a brief overview, the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan was adopted in May 2017, and it's a plan that sets out a 30-year strategy for land use and transportation within the Shelbourne area. The Shelbourne Valley is a significant area within the district of Saanich, and as you can see on the map on the screen, there are some very important features that surround this valley. And this valley also serves as a frequent transit corridor connecting the city of Victoria to Saanich. and it also serves as it provides one of the major centers where students and residents around the University of Victoria visit often. There are other natural features around there as well as the Montomi, institutional uses like Hamilton College, among others, which makes the Shelbourne Valley significant. In 2017, when the initial plan was adopted, 8 goals were outlined, and this cut across protecting and restoring the natural environment, as well as addressing climate change, which is a significant issue globally. The plan also speaks to developing vibrant and attractive centers and villages. And in 2017, when the plan was initially adopted, 3 centers were identified within the plan area, including the University Center, the Shelbourne Valley Center, and Hillside Center, in addition to 1 village. And all of these significant geographies were connected primarily by the Shelbourne Street, which is identified as the Shelbourne Corridor. In addition to these, the plan also make provisions in terms of policies and actions towards accommodating all ages and abilities within the area. In this sense, the plan aims to be inclusive for all ages and abilities in Saanich. On top of that, the plan also put forward the objective of enhancing opportunities for active transportation, which is one of Saanich major approach towards reducing greenhouse gas emission in the district. There is also a goal that speaks to housing choice and affordability in order to make sure that housing is available to all residents and visitors in the district. And on top of that, the plan also set out a goal to strengthen the network of community spaces and facilities, as well as enhance sense of space, sense of place and identity within the Shelbourne Valley area, which is known to be a significant area in terms of the World War and the events that happened back in the days. In 2017, when this plan was originally adopted, it focused on land use and transportation, as earlier mentioned. And in terms of land use designations, the designations were limited to the first block on both sides of Shelbourne Street and areas around the centers and village. And at that time, when the plan was initially adopted, the land uses that were identified include the mixed-use commercial, apartments, townhouses, as well as identifying parks and institutions as significant areas within the Shelbourne Valley. At that time, the height designations was limited, and there was no much in terms of land use designation outside these areas that are close to the Shelbourne Street. In the last 7 years of the plan's existence, there have been some achievements in terms of fulfilling its goals. And in the next couple of slides, I will discuss some of the achievement that the plan has been able to realize in aspects of these 8 goals that it outlined. The first being the environment and climate. The plan through policies had supported tree retention and planting, and it's implemented this through when we receive new development applications and through the policies that we outline in this plan, we've been able to encourage this process. In addition to that, the plan also addressed the objectives of the urban forest as well as the Bauco Creek within the Shelbourne Valley area. And it also implemented a short-term mobility action, which is one of the major actions that the plan adopted, which is primarily the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project, among other road infrastructure upgrade within the area. And this transmitted into reducing greenhouse gas emission in the plan area. Moving on, in terms of housing, we received a couple of development applications in the last 7 years, totaling 21, and out of this, 17 of them were completed. And the resultant effect is that on top of upon completion of this development, we look forward to having additional 1,751 units within the district of Saanich. And the various units spread across apartments, development, commercial, mixed use, houseplex, mixed use, as well as townhouses within the district. And they come in various sizes, ranging from a studio up to 3-bedroom units, providing various options of housing and levels of affordability for residents within the Shelbourne Valley area. In the aspect of the economy, the policies that were outlined in this plan supported mixed-use development, which make provision for having commercial spaces on the ground floor of residential development. And this aim towards achieving a more vibrant center within the Shelbourne Valley area. And the picture on the screen is just an example of one of the recent developments that was completed within the plan area. And on the ground floor, as earlier mentioned, is a commercial space which serves as offices for various activities within the plan area, while residential is above that ground floor. Um, the policies and the plan also speaks to retention of areas where we have institutional buildings presently, particularly schools and open space. And in the last couple of years, we have seen some applications that support that this policy supported, which which will lead into some new developments in the area. One of them is the upgrade of the Cedar Hill Middle School, which is currently ongoing. In addition to that is the redevelopment of the Nellie McClung Library, which will provide additional multi-unit housing above the ground floor, and the ground floor will still be retained as a library. This speaks to the policies of the plan supporting community spaces and facilities while we receive new redevelopment applications in the area. Um, Besides this developments that we have seen, the plan of all the policy in the plan of also, and in addition to the applications that we have received, have also contributed a significant amount in terms of amenity contribution to the district of Saanich. And the community amenity contribution is the fund that we receive. It could be in cash or in kind. It's agreed upon by the council, the public, as well as the developer when there is a rezoning process. This policy provides opportunity to negotiate what amenity contribution we look to see within the area. And as a result of the new development applications that we have received involving rezoning in the last 7 years, there have been over 1 million in terms of community contribution in the Shelbourne Valley area. And this fund is distributed across different pockets, including the Balco Creek Restoration Fund, the Park Lands Acquisition Reserve Fund, Capital Works Reserve Fund, Transportation Improvement, Affordable Housing Fund, among others. Um, in addition, the plan of also achieved some progress in terms of providing mobility for various demographics and abilities. One of the major improvements in the area is the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project, which is a multi-year project that is set to be completed by the year 2026. And this project is divided into 3 phases. Currently, the tail end of the second phase, and it looks forward to kickstart the third phase later this year. So the project extends from Garnet Road to Torquay Drive in the first phase, and currently it's ongoing in terms of upgrade and redevelopment from North Dairy Road to Pierre Street, which is part of the second phase. And the third phase will include road construction upgrade, underground utility upgrade, as well as provision of street furnitures, among other landscape features from Pierre to Garnet Street. So overall, the project cut across upgrading the road, providing sidewalk to enhance accessibility within the area and support active transportation. It includes providing bike lanes and landscaping the area in terms of providing new trees and improving the public realm. So this all-encompassing transportation improvement project is one of the outcome of the 2017 Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Also, in terms of the outcome in the transportation aspect, we've also seen some road improvement on adjacent streets on to Shelbourne. Some of them include sidewalk improvement on Mortimer Street, as well as traffic calming and safety enhancement on Jennifer and Doncaster Drive. Lastly, in terms of the outcome of the 2017 plan, we've seen some improvement in terms of the sense of space and the identity within the valley through some of the new development that were received. Some of the policies outlined supported ensure that new development feature the development of new trees and the preservation of existing one. And this on the screen, we have one of the recent developments, which part of the requirements from the developer was to plant some new London plane trees. And we also have some plaques to commemorate the lost veterans as a result of the World War, and dedicating the street, that is the Shelbourne Street, as a memorial avenue, which adds to the quality of the sense of space, the place, as well as the identity of the valley. Um, at this point, we will take a quick survey just to get a sense of uh, the participants that we have today. We want to know those that were part of the um, plan development in 2017, as well as those that are just joining us in the process. So it's a pleasure to have some of the um, initial participants in the towards the 2017 Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, as well as to welcome participants who are new to this planning process. So we'll take a few minutes to participate in the survey, and then we'll move forward with the presentation. Okay, thank you very much for your participation. We have a fair amount of those that were part of the initial planning process in 2017, and also a considerable amount of new persons joining us today, which is a good mix. 57% of tonight's participants were part of the development of the 2017 Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, and 42% are new to the process. So it's an opportunity to welcome you to this process, and we hope that you get to engage more as we move on with the process. So now I will begin to speak to the updates that we will be embarking on, and it will continue until the summer of 2015. So this update is outlined to be an 11-month process, and the primary reasons why the update is necessary at this time is because over the years since the plan was adopted, there have been some changes in terms of the planning framework within the district of Saanich. We have also received some improved information on housing needs, in addition to the provincial mandate on housing. Besides that, the demographics and the markets has also changed in the last couple of years, which informed the need for us to revisit our land use designations, as well as our visions and how we plan for the Shelbourne Valley area. Uh, in addition to that, we have also recently adopted, and we also have some new ongoing municipal initiatives, plans, and trends. And besides that, updating center corridor and village plans like this one is part of council's strategic plan direction towards achieving improved planning within the district of Saanich. Based on that, the key objectives for the strategic update of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan includes to assess the progress made in implementing the goals of the 2017 plan, and we will also be identifying trends, issues, and regulatory changes that are affecting the plan's implementation. And lastly, we will determine changes to resolve implementation issues, ensure alignment with the official community plan, and address priority planning actions from other recently adopted, updated, or ongoing initiatives within the district. For the purpose of this update, the study area is largely the same as the original plan, which was adopted in 2017. And this stretches from Hillside Avenue in the north. Um, Due to the layout of the screen, the map is tilted in a different direction now. So I will be speaking from left to right, which is supposed to be from the south to the north. Um, so we have the Hillside Shopping Center serving as the significant feature on the left, which is the southern boundary of the plan area. And towards my right, which is the northern boundary, we have Lambrick Park. and that is close to Feltham Road. So this shows the stretch of the um, planned area from south to north, that is from left to right. And the planned area at the time, when it was originally adopted in 2017, covers area approximately 500 meters from both sides of Shelbourne Street, and that is what you have 500 meters up to the upper part of the screen and 500 meters on the lower part of the screen, looking from Shelbourne Street. And the planned area at the time, the designations were restricted to mainly the parcels that were close to the Shelbourne Street. However, in the course of this update, we'll be considering additional areas, and these additional areas that we'll be looking at in the process of this update is what has been outlined in blue in the map on your screen. So the areas or the parcels within the blue boundary in the map on the screen are the areas that we will be considering for the purpose of updating the land use designation during the process of updating the Shelbourne Valley action plan. So I will go further to speak to specific sub areas that we have identified. So in line with the 2017 plan, the plan contained three centers and a village. The Feltham village being the only village within the study area, and this um, sub area is a very significant one in the sense that it provides some commercial activities and opportunities for housing as well as recreation facilities and parks within the Shelbourne Valley area. So we'll be looking at this sub area to discuss what opportunities do we have for future land use, as well as the kinds of improvements that we look forward to see as we move on in terms of planning and development within the district of Saanich. The second sub area that we will be looking at is the Shelbourne Valley Center. And this center provides one of the major commercial activities and services for the Shelbourne Valley area. We'll be looking at the center to discuss issues around the types of developments we want to see in the center, opportunities to provide additional parks. We'll be looking at discussions around transitioning densities from the Shelbourne Valley Center to the inner streets, as well as moving towards the neighborhood. So these are some of the conversations that we'll be having during the course of this plan evaluation stage as we move on with the planning process. The third sub area is the Hillside Center, and that is further north, and it shares boundary with the city of Victoria. Some significant features around this center is the Hillside Shopping Mall, as well as some commercial spaces and commercial users and office spaces along North Dairy Road. The Hillside Center also shares close proximity to the Cedar Hill Park, and there are some institutional users, including St. Michael's and Lansdowne Middle School within and around the area. So we'll be looking at opportunities for new housing here. Another significant natural feature that is in the Hillside Center, including the Shelbourne Valley Center, is the Balco Creek. So we'll be looking at opportunities towards restoring the creek ecosystem, as well as balancing development alongside. So these are some of the discussions, among others, that we'll be having in the course of the planning process for the Shelbourne Valley strategic updates. Having said that, the Quadra Mackenzie plan is currently ongoing, and this planning area overlaps the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan area at the Mackenzie at the Shelbourne Mackenzie Center, which is referred to as the University Center in the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan in 2017. This center is one of the centers that was identified in the original plan in 2017. However, due to the new Quadra Mackenzie plan that is ongoing and detailed planning process is going on for this center through that plan, we will not be considering the Shelbourne Mackenzie Center, otherwise known as the University Center, in the course of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan update. So the Shelbourne Mackenzie Center, for the purpose of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan update, is considered out of scope for land use decisions and all forms of changes in terms of development and future goals for the Shelbourne Mackenzie Center. We will be deferring to the Quadra Mackenzie plan. Another ongoing initiative within the study area is the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project. And this is one of the outcomes of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan in 2017. This project is currently in its second phase and moving toward the third phase. And the updates to the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan will not inform any change to the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project. Instead, the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan will only be updated to reflect the progress that had been made with regards to these mobility improvement projects. Uh, Moving on to discuss some of the policy context and other aspects of planning and the various operations within the district that will be influencing the updates of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. The first and primary one is the official community plan, and this was adopted recently in the year 2024, and it set out four key objectives for land use within the districts. The first being to maintain the urban containment boundary. I'd like to mention that the Shelbourne Valley area is within the urban containment boundary. And secondly, the official community plan set out the objective to accommodate most development in the primary growth areas. The Shelbourne Valley area is also one of the primary growth areas that has been identified within the Saanich official community plan. And thirdly, the plan seeks to expand housing diversity in in neighborhoods, and this is also in line with one of the objectives of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. And the fourth is to make Saanich a 15-minute community by providing easy access to health facilities, food, diverse housing choices, public transit, active transportation, natural areas, and playgrounds, among other facilities within near close, short walking distance to where people live. And being that the Shelbourne Valley area provides that opportunity, being a primary growth area, there is the official community plan is one of those major documents that would influence the changes that will be ongoing in the process of updating this center corridor and village plan. Speaking more to what a center, a corridor, and a village is. So a center is a pedestrian-friendly area where with public spaces, regional services, significant housing opportunities, employment, and frequent or rapid transit access. I would like to mention once again that the Shelbourne Valley area currently has three centers: the Hillside Center, the Shelbourne Valley Center, and the University Center, otherwise known as the Shelbourne Mackenzie Center, that is currently being planned under the Quadra Mackenzie plan. And in addition to that, a corridor is primarily residential areas with limited mixed use linked to sustainable transportation, allowing greater heights near centers and corridors. And within the study area, the Shelbourne corridor the Shelbourne Street is a major corridor, and it serves as a frequent transit network that connects these three centers and the Feltham village. And the village, as defined here, according to the OCP, are neighborhood serving activity areas that meet a range of basic commercial and service needs with medium density housing. So some of the purpose of this plan is to update the designations to put policies in place towards achieving the full definition and expectation of a village, a corridor, and a center within the Shelbourne Valley area. Another policy that will be influencing the updates is a housing strategy, which was adopted in 2021. On top of that is the new provincial housing target that set the target of over 4,000 new housing units for the district of Saanich. And the plan updates will involve integrating the focus of the housing strategy as well as the targets of the uh, of the province in terms of additional housing provision within the district. So through updating the plan, we'll make more provisions to accommodate new and future developments. Some out of the total development that Saanich will be welcoming over in the next couple of years, there will be provision for some of those housing opportunities within the Shelbourne Valley area, which is a primary growth area. The development permit guideline, also recently adopted earlier this year, have also provided guidelines to communicate the design expectation for residential, commercial, industrial, and mixed-use projects within the district of Saanich. This guideline built upon the 2017 urban design section of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Excuse me. Through these updates, we will be updating the urban design. We will be adopting some of the recommendations of the urban design, the guideline that has been recently adopted, and providing additional policies to further achieve the objectives of the design guidelines, specifically for the Shelbourne Valley area. Besides that, the Balco Creek is a significant ecosystem in the study area. And this creek, in order to restore and protect this creek, several initiatives have been put in place. One of them includes the Balco Creek Daylighting Feasibility Study and the Balco Creek Blueprint. Currently, the Balco Creek, an update to the Balco Creek Blueprint is currently ongoing. And through the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan update, it will provide an opportunity for us to make use of the recommendations from these initiatives to achieve the objective of protecting the environment and ecosystem for the Balco Creek. The Saanich Climate Plan is also another policy that will be influencing changes and updates to the policies in the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. In 2020, the District of Saanich adopted a new climate plan, which sets to cut emission by half in the year 2030, and to achieve net zero by 2050. And it also seeks to transition to 100% renewable energy by 2050, and to put forth actions in order to prepare for changing climate. Some of these actions would include things like improving mobility, building sustainable infrastructure, sustainable food production, ecosystem protection, improved community well-being, and leadership in the district operations by leading by example. So the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan updates would also learn from this climate plan and review and make additional provisions for policies to ensure the achievement of the climate goals of the district of Saanich. Another policy as well as strategy or plan that will be affecting that will be considered in the course of these updates is the active transportation plan. Although right now there's actions in place in terms of improving transits as well as walkability along the Shelbourne Street, additional recommendations from the recently adopted active transportation plan will be put in place in order to be able to achieve the targets of reducing vehicular transit, which is currently 77%, which constitutes 77% of the way people move around within the district of Saanich. And the goal is that by 2050, that should be reduced to about 50%, and to provide additional opportunities for transit, walking, and cycling. And the plan seeks to achieve that through the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project, among other initiatives that will be identified in the course of this update, to be able to ensure that we are reducing greenhouse gas emission, in which of course transportation happens to be one of the major contributor to CO2 emission within the district of Saanich. The biodiversity conservation strategy was also adopted in June of this year, and is part of the Resilient Saanich program. And it provides roadmap to protect and connect, as well as enhance biodiversity through policy, operations, and public stewardship. So some of the biodiversity network that this plan, that this strategy have outlined, some of them fall within the Shelbourne Valley area. And through the updates, it provides an opportunity to review ecosystem related and biodiversity related issues within the plan to ensure that development is balanced with the natural ecosystem and the biodiversity within the Shelbourne Valley area. Another similar environmental strategy that was recently adopted in the district is the urban forest strategy. And the goal is that through this strategy, we should be able to achieve 44% canopy cover by 2064 in the district of Saanich. And it looks forward to having at least 3 trees close to every home and having at least 30% canopy cover in every neighborhood, and that every resident of Saanich is living 300 meters close to a park or a green space. So the updates will also review this strategy and adopt some of the initiatives that have been outlined and update the existing policies, actions in the document to be able to achieve the goal for the 44% canopy cover within the district of Saanich over the next couple of years. Regarding the timeline and the process of these updates, the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan update have been divided into 5 phases. The update started in September of 2024 with preliminary project assessments as well as initiation of the project, and this involves some background study by staff, presenting of the terms of reference to council for consideration, and all of this happened within the months of September and October. Currently, we are in the second phase of the project, which is the evaluation phase. This phase will run until January of 2025, and there will be a couple of engagements during this phase, which I will be talking about. At the end of this phase, we look forward to developing an engagement summary, which will reflect all of the inputs that we have received or that we will receive in the course of this phase of the project. Um, at the completion of the engagement phase, we will move on to the plan update phase. And during the plan updates, we will take all of the inputs received in phase 2 to develop a draft plan. And the draft plan will will reflect all the contributions from the member of the public, as well as the new and other ongoing initiatives within the district of Saanich that I have earlier discussed. Uh, at the end of that third phase, a draft plan will be prepared, and that draft plan will be brought forward to the public in the fourth phase for review and refinement. So in the fourth phase of the project, there will be a series of engagements as well with the members of the public and other interested stakeholders. We will have the opportunity to review the draft plan, make comments and suggestions towards developing a proposed plan. So the proposed updated plan will be as a result of all the refinements and changes and comments from the public that we receive in the fourth phase, and that proposed updated plan will be presented to council in the fifth phase, which is in the summer of 2015 for consideration. Uh, Speaking more on the second phase of the project, which we are currently in, that is the plan evaluation phase. The objective is to gather feedback from the public and stakeholders on assessments of the plan, to identify and address key issues to achieve the plan goals, as well as review and gather ideas for future land use designations within the Shelbourne Valley area. Some of the areas of exploration in this phase includes to review the areas outlined for land use changes. That is making reference to the study area map that I discussed earlier. That's all of the parcels within the blue boundary. We would review those areas in detail. We will explore housing opportunities within walking distance to the of Shelbourne Street. We'll also be discussing potential ideas for development around the Bowker Creek. And this would include discussion as to how to protect the creek while encouraging future development as well. There will also be discussion around the consideration for new housing options near parks. One of the key reasons for this is to also achieve the objective of the urban forest strategy, which is to have at least every resident of Saanich living within close proximity to parks. That is about 300 meters distance to a nearest park. There will also be discussions around identifying areas to expand commercial uses in the center and in the village. And this speaks to one of the objectives of the plan, which is to create more vibrant centers and villages. There will also be discussion around how to connect higher density areas to surrounding neighborhoods. So this discussion will include some discussion around transitioning from this center core areas to residential neighborhoods around the Shelbourne Valley area, and as we even move further into the small-scale multi-unit neighborhoods and single-family dwelling areas. There will also be discussion around identifying priority improvements in each of the sub-areas that have been identified within the planning area. There are several opportunities to engage in this phase of the project. Um, Currently, we are in phase two, and there are webinar sessions for the member of public to participate online. There will be open house events, and details will be provided in the next slide. There is also an online survey that is now available, and public and every other stakeholders interested are encouraged to participate in this survey. There will be several meetings with stakeholders, including community associations, housing providers, among other interested parties in the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Online updates will also be provided regularly through the project's webpage, and notifications will also be sent out to every interested participant that have subscribed to the LO signage page, or that is currently following the LO signage page. In phase three, there will be limited engagement, as this will be the phase when the draft plan will be developed by staff, following all of the input that we have received in this phase. In that third phase, we will be providing updates online, and we'll also be receiving comments via email and other suggestions. And we'll also be sending out notification to keep the public informed about the progress that is being made. In the fourth phase, we will come back again to have a comprehensive engagement section, just like we are currently having in the second phase, and it will feature webinar sessions, open house events, online surveys, stakeholders meeting, online update, as well as email notification. And the engagement in the fifth phase also will also be similar to what we have in the first and third phase. So regarding the schedule of activities for the public and other stakeholders to be able to participate in the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan update, uh, last week we held our first online session, and today we are currently having the second online session. On Thursday, that is in 2 days from now, we'll be meeting at St. Luke's Cedar Hill Anglican Church. It's an open house. It's a drop-in session. Uh, every interested member of the public is encouraged to come in and have discussion with staff. No registration is required for this event, so you can drop in within the hours of 4 p.m. and 8 p.m., meet with staff to interact and have further discussions regarding the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan update, the process, the things you would like to see, the concerns and all. These are part of the conversations that we'll be having at the open house. On Tuesday, the 26th of November as well, the same time, we will also be meeting at Garden Head Recreation Center, the multipurpose room to be precise, and we'll also be having conversations around the issues that we have identified for discussion in this second phase of the project. Having said that, the online survey is currently open, and it's available until the 15th of December. So we encourage everyone to log into the project website. When you go into the project website, you click on the LO signage button. It will take you to the LO signage page where you'll be able to complete the survey. Where can you find more information? You can find more information on the project website. The engagement page, that is the LO signage page, is also available. And the planning department can also be reached by telephone. And specifically for the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, the email to contact is svp@sanich.ca. So I will be posting another poll, and that brings that having completed the presentation, I would like to get a sense of how, excuse me, our members of the public who would like to receive updates. So there are several opportunities to be updated about this plan currently, and this includes the project website, the Elo signage page, social media, newspapers, household mailers, updates from community association. So want to know which of these options would you prefer um, to be engaged or to be notified as the plan progresses? Okay. So majority would like to be updated via the project website and Elo signage. A significant number still wants the paper method, which is receiving household mailers. Yeah, and we have 17% also who are interested in all of the above. So all of these options will be made available uh, to serve different demographics and different choices. And we hope that this process you get to engage and participate. We look forward to hearing your questions, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event on Thursday at St. Luke Anglican Church. It's between the hours of 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. And registration is not required for this event. It's a drop-in open house event. So you're encouraged to participate and be a part of this process. Thank you very much for attending this evening. And now we'll move on to the question and answer session. Where we'll be looking at the questions that we have submitted, and we'll be addressing them to as much as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Abiola. So Abiola and myself will work through answering the questions. And just a reminder, using the Q&A feature at the top of your screen, clicking on that and then clicking ask a question. We'll go through everything that's submitted and hopefully give you some answers here. So the first question is, are there any provisions for wheelchair units in the housing plan? I didn't see any listed under types of accommodations. Wheelchair units and accessible housing are something that is important throughout all of Saanich. So it's an issue that's addressed primarily through things that pertain to Saanich, so regulations that would pertain to all of Saanich. And there's a couple of different ways that happens. The first kind of most important thing is the BC Building Code, which has minimum requirements around accessibility and adaptability. Coming in on March 10th, 2025, there's a series of changes to the building code that are improving requirements for ensuring that units can be designed to be adaptable to changing life needs, including folks in a wheelchair. So those requirements will be coming in March 10th, 2025. We also include a number of things in our design guidelines, which relate to accessibility. And this includes elements that actually allow people to connect from the public realm to their front door. And then certainly it's something that we look at in development applications as well, and we're continually looking at development policies. But as I mentioned, primarily on a citywide basis. The next question is related to Bowker Creek. Please identify actions to implement the Bowker Creek Greenway since the adoption of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. As well, apart from the work on the study and blueprint, has anything specifically been done to daylight Bowker Creek within the Shelbourne Valley since the adoption of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan? So in terms of the Bowker Creek Greenway first, so for those of you not familiar with that, that is a route that's identified parallel to Shelbourne Street, so just west of Shelbourne Street. where the idea is you have a recreational route that parallels Shelbourne Street. So a lot of that is based on acquiring additional property, additional pathways at the time of redevelopment. There hasn't been a ton of opportunities that have come up in the last 7 years in those areas, but that's something that we will continue to keep an eye on and pursue. So I would say there's been, fairly little progress made on that Bowker Creek Greenway. So that might be something that we look at as this update of the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Is there a way that we can expedite that? And I think that's one of the really important things about updating the plans regularly. It's a check-in to say what's been working and what hasn't. So I think that's one where we can look at that routing. Are there locations where we can maybe implement that quicker? Are there certain improvements that need to be made sooner? So certainly something we can revisit. In terms of daylighting Bowker Creek, a couple of really important things have happened since the last Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Most notably, a daylighting feasibility study, which really provided a clear sense of the practical feasibility of daylighting certain segments of the creek. And one of the things that we had the vision of daylighting the creek in certain parts as part of the previous Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, but we were missing some of the technical information that really allowed us to understand exactly what was required to achieve that. So the daylighting feasibility study has helped identify that, including identifying what sections would need to be daylighted first, what sections are perhaps maybe too far, too deep to realistically to daylight, and what areas where there are some more significant opportunities. I would also say that we've gained a fair amount of information about the infrastructure, so the underground pipes, which often parallel the creek. So that's one of the advantages we have with this update is we have much better information to look at what segments are practical to implement, and we'll dig into that. And there's a reason why the Bowker Creek Blueprint is a 100-year strategy. It's a challenging thing to do and requires a lot of land when there's a lot of competing interests for that land in terms of housing and transportation improvements, things like that. But certainly something we can have a much more realistic conversation about at this time. The next question is not strictly relating to the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, but now that we're finally starting to see a connected active transportation network across the region, including Shelbourne, are there any plans to have more continuous data collection on transportation mode share? It's really difficult to find current accessible data on this. Yeah, it's a good point, and probably something that needs to continue to be built on. There's a couple of data sets that we rely on for that. We do have the CRD does a fairly comprehensive origin destination study that collects data on different travel choices and what modes are used between destinations. So that's certainly an important one, but it is kind of that snapshot in time. There is also census data once every 4 years on journey to work, which is another piece of it. And then we have additionally we have bicycle and vehicle counters, which provide some information, but perhaps not a comprehensive picture of the mode share. So we really rely on that CRD data to give us a sense of the mode share, but try to collect other data that can kind of fill in some of the gaps. The next question is, what is the anticipated increase in road traffic with increased housing density? As part of a lot of our projects, and certainly when we did the original 2017 Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, we did fairly extensive modeling looking at the impacts of new land use and changes to the road. So that's something that we looked at. I think one of the things that we're hoping to do is basically ensure that additional trips are taken by other modes, be it transit, walking, or cycling. And in instances where we provided that infrastructure and level of transit service, those incrementally gained trips have often been taken up by those other modes. So certainly there'll always be a high level of baseline traffic, but much of that increase in housing density is offset by mode shifts. So that's certainly the hope, and areas where we've seen development. There's been a relatively consistent amount of traffic, and the mode share has shifted over time. So we're not looking at expanding any roads significantly. So we have what we have to work with, and hoping that we can really increase the feasibility of those other modes to allow that transition. So I think the next question is over to you, Abiola.
Yeah, I have a question about what steps are being taken to complete the bike lanes on Shelbourne from Pier to Garnet. Notice more cyclists on Shelbourne, even with the existing bike lanes not completed. So this is part of the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project, and currently the project is in that portion of the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project is part of the third phase, which is still currently ongoing, and it's started in October, and the construction around that area will continue until July of 2026. So far so good. There have been some improvement in terms of sidewalk. There have been new pavements, about 1.5 kilometer roadway in within that particular area of the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project. But in terms of for additional detail on this question, would suggest that you visit the Shelbourne Street Improvement Project web page. I'll drop that in the chat section, and it also contains contacts of members of our engineering departments who are specifically implementing this project. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Abiola. The next question is, since the forthcoming Quadra McKenzie plan may have a direct impact on University Heights and surrounding area, can you provide any insights at this time about how this plan requirement came about and what drivers and/or outcomes might possibly differ from the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan? So good question. I guess a lot of the drivers for the Quadra McKenzie plan update are present for the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. I think a couple of critical things are the provincial housing targets, which Saanich has been provided, which require roughly a tripling of our historic production of housing units. And then combined with that is our recently adopted OCP, which is adopted, our Official Community Plan, which was adopted at the beginning of this year, where we've made an explicit decision to really focus the majority of our growth along in centers, corridors, and villages. So Shelbourne, Quadra McKenzie are three of the most significant corridors in all of Saanich in terms of accommodating that future growth in an area that's already well serviced by amenities and businesses and shops, as well as active transportation routes and frequent transit. So that's a lot of what's driving this is this imperative around additional housing units, and also the imperative around looking to focus our growth to protect areas from outside the urban containment from development and locate new development in areas that can help us meet some of our climate goals in terms of more energy efficient building forms in locations where people are more likely to take alternative modes. Abiola, I think you're the next question there.
So with respect to land use designations, how much consideration has been given to the physical setting of the Shelbourne Valley? Okay. Yeah. Consideration has been given to the Shelbourne Valley in terms of the natural ecosystem, the terrain of the area, and most of this process will be looked into in further details through technical analysis, which is part of what this plan evaluation stage involved. So the evaluation stage involved both technical analysis on the side of the staff as well as engagement with the public to get input about what is going on in the area and what the expectation is. So issues around the terrain of the area will be part of the technical analysis that will inform the kinds of designations that will be proposed. So the designation that will be putting forward in the draft plan will be a combination of the feedback we received through the engagement, as well as the results of the technical analysis that will be conducted by staff, in addition to other experts that will be involved in the plan development process. Yeah, and in addition to that, when new development applications come in, it's part of the requirement to assess these applications in relation to the terrain of the particular site or area where the development is proposed for. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll do the next couple questions here. The first one relates to sidewalks around Horner Park. The park renewal did not add sidewalks to the park. Currently, the only sidewalk is on the west side of the park, and you have to go from the sidewalk through the parking lot. The other two sides do not have sidewalks. The east side of the park is now a challenging, thus not friendly, pedestrian-friendly parking area. The removal of parking on Cedar Hill Cross has increased the park had increased the park on the east side of Iona. To be honest, that's a question that I don't know the answer to. I would encourage you, whoever wrote that question, to email engineering@saanich.ca, and they'd be able to give you some clear information around the rationale for why that change wasn't made, and or if there's any improvements planned for the near future. So sorry that I'm not able to answer that specifically, but if you contact that engineering@saanich.ca email, you'll be able to get some information on that. The next question is, how are people with disabilities involved in all this planning and design? By the way, many people with disabilities use/need their cars to get around, and by decreasing use of cars over the years, excludes people with disabilities. Also ensuring there is still accessible parking for people with disabilities, also ensuring handy dart or places to park/pick up. So one of the things that's changing in Saanich is the amount of parking that we're requiring, and council has made some explicit decisions to reduce the amount of parking required for new development. There's requirements now around transportation demand management measures, such as bus passes for inhabitants, having car share vehicles, things like that. One thing that's important to note is those reductions to parking are not applicable to accessible spaces or loading spaces, and quite the contrary, where we've actually increased requirements around accessible parking and loading for new development. So even though the overall general amount of parking will be lower, the availability of accessible parking and loading zones is being strengthened, both in terms of the quantity required, but also in terms of some of the parameters in terms of stall widths and access to entrances and things like that. In terms of getting input from people with disabilities in planning and design, certainly there's a broader public input that we get here, and hopefully it reaches out to people that from all walks of life that have different experiences in the community. So certainly encourage that. We also do have a accessibility, diversity, equity, and inclusion committee of council. So that's a group we look to for advice, particularly around specific design guidelines or other things. So that group is a resource that we can draw upon. The next question is, have you considered the effects of building heights around parks and the loss of sunlight and shading, the loss of sky and its impact on well-being? Yeah, so another good question. So one of the things that we've heard in some of our recent plans is all the multifamily housing has really been concentrated around busy streets where there's more noise, air quality impacts, and it's not very equitable to force folks who maybe can't afford a single family house to always live on corridors. So by looking at housing around parks, there's the ability to have a broader range of housing forms, be them townhouses, apartment units, that also have equitable access to that. Um, the point around how those are designed and what building heights are appropriate is a really good point, and that can certainly impact the utility of that park space. So that's something that we're looking at with our land use designations. So any feedback there, and certainly we look at things like solar exposure. And I know, as an example, Horner Park, the properties to the south of that are ones where we're already thinking about, like, that's probably not a location where we want to have taller buildings. So that's something that we look at those parks on a case by case basis, and then we also rely on our design guidelines to have appropriate setbacks, and some of that does also relate to the programming of that park and where the different uses are located. So the next question is, the Saanich OCP allows buildings up to 12 stories in centers. Would this allow a building of this height to be approved next to a land use designation for townhouses? So possibly yes. And one of the things we're trying to do in this plan is take some of those coarser designations in the official community plan and translate them on a parcel by parcel basis to the Shelbourne Valley um, to ensure we have some of those appropriate transitions. So I think that's something that we'll be looking at through this. Is, the OCP has this broad center which allows up to 12 stories, and it doesn't mean that every single parcel in there is suitable for 12 stories. So it's a matter of, like, what does that transition look like? Typically, we've concentrated the tallest buildings right at the heart of major intersections, or in large sites, and then transition down from there. So that's something that we'll be looking at. And the 12-story, next to the townhouse is not in ideal circumstances. There may be certain instances where that could make sense, but typically more of a gradual transition is appropriate. Okay, one more from me before I hand it over to Abiola here. Curious to what extent May has the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan informed the city's Victoria's future efforts in and around Hillside Centre, in addition to the new bike lanes now along the southern balance of Shelbourne Street. So I would say it's probably informed it fairly significantly. I know the fact that Saanich is investing significant resources to add high quality cycling infrastructure on Shelbourne Street, elevated the priority of Shelbourne as a bike route in City of Victoria. And then similarly, some of the development in and around Hillside Centre is informed by the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan as well. Although it's important to note that that particular centre is identified and has been identified in the regional growth strategy as kind of a major regional town centre that's shared between Victoria and Saanich for some time. So the significance and primacy of that has been something that's been shared by Victoria and Saanich. And a lot of our policies that we're putting in place are looking to implement that. And I know Victoria is in the process of updating their official community plan as well, and certainly looking at higher density in that area as well.
Okay, hi, we'll take the next question, and it's regards to I love the centers and villages that already exist along Shelbourne. It makes it so I rarely have to drive. However, are there thoughts of allowing small-scale commercial off of the corridor, neighborhood convenience stores, coffee shops, and bakeries, etc.? Yeah. So all of these commercial functions that have been, outlined here are some of the reasons why the designations along the Shelbourne corridor need to be revised through these updates. So through these updates, there will be consideration for identifying suitable locations for mixed uses. And the intent is that for those mixed use opportunities, we would have commercial on the ground floor and opportunities for residential above. So some locations will also be strategically identified through engagement with the public. And these are locations that we consider suitable to have orbs, and orbs being like small commercial centers within the neighborhood. And these orbs are expected to provide like some of these commercial opportunities that have been listed in this question. It's supposed to be like some small spaces where people can gather and interact within the neighborhood as well. And it also to have direct connection to public transit. So this commercial options that have been identified is going to fall under the category of neighborhood hubs within the planning process. And through engagement with the public, strategic locations where opportunities to have these commercial activities will be identified, and it will feature in the draft plan that will be developed as we move on with the process. Thank you.
Okay, next another Bowker Creek question. 2 weeks ago, salmon were found in the Bowker Creek in Oak Bay for the first time in 70 years. Great news. What is being considered to improve and clean water inflows into the Bowker Creek from the Shelbourne Valley vis-a-vis increased development? Yeah, so another good question, and one that is certainly something that needs to be tackled from multiple different perspectives. So for those of you who don't know, Bowker Creek runs through starts at UVic and runs through the Saanich and the city of Victoria and Oak Bay. So there's a number of measures that need to be implemented. Hence the multi-jurisdictional Bowker Creek blueprint. So a couple of things that I know, and certainly we look at improving our stormwater management requirements. And this is, and each area has a different level of requirement depending on the watersheds in. And I believe the requirements in this area are some of the most stringent in Saanich. But there's also some major infrastructure changes that need to be made. In talking to some of our engineers in our infrastructure group, some more significant ability to retain water, particularly up near UVic, would really make a big difference. So in addition to some of those more broader stormwater management guidelines, there's some specific larger pieces of infrastructure that can make a big difference. And then certainly if we're able to daylight certain sections, that could considerably help as well in terms of returning a bigger portion of the creek back to a semblance of the habitat it once was. Maybe I'll take the next one too about the accessibility council. So have you considered to have the accessibility council that you mentioned as part of these presentations? Would be great to hear how they've been involved and how their input has been used. So that's the committee of council, which includes one councillor and then a number of representatives from the community. In this case, folks from diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility groups. So I know when we originally developed the Shelbourne Action Plan, we did have consultation with disability advocates as part of that, and certainly something we could consider presenting to that committee as well. And thanks for that thought. It's always something that's really important to make sure we're engaging with those folks that are maybe have greater challenges navigating the urban environment. So the next question here, sorry, I think it's over to you, Abula.
This question is referring to overall, the action plan is looking to add more housing.
I think you might have your mic up, Abula, if you're having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. Overall, the action plan is looking to add more housing, make streets wider to allow more variation, cars, bikes, and walking. I am not sure that keeping the mixed-use commercial areas the same will lead to a successful plan. It feels like it will be a lot more people rushing to the same stores every day. Uh, so with respect to this question, the plan updates will address some of these issues. Um, because of the update, there'll be changes to the land use designations and new areas where opportunities for commercial development can occur will be identified. So the existing commercial areas, while some of them will be retained, there will also be new ones that will be mapped out in the course of updating the plan. So the updated plan is not going to be exactly what we have right now. While we have some of the areas that have been identified in 2017 land use designation, um, as might still retain its land commercial land use potential. New areas will also be identified for opportunities to have more commercial development in the area. And in relation to the previous questions too about having small pockets of commercial activities within the neighborhood, orbs will also be identified in strategic locations that provide easy access to frequent transit within the study area. So these issues are part of the things that we will be looking at as we move on in the process. Um, the second question is also for me, and it relates to if anything can be done in terms of planning wise along Shelbourne to move towards the beautiful vibe that Oak Bay and Cook Street villages have with their multiple small businesses and cafes. Yeah, thank you very much for pointing out those good examples within close proximity to us. We'll be learning from the existing developments in Oak Bay and Cook Street Village. I think it will be part of the things that we would include as part of the technical study that staff will be doing. We'll we will look into the planning team will look into that area with a little bit more detail, and we will gather some of the lessons that we could learn from the Oak Bay and Cook Street examples as we plan for the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan. Yeah.
And maybe if I could just add to that question too, I think when we originally developed the Shelbourne Valley Action Plan, a lot of the design guidelines and things, we certainly looked at areas like that for guidance in terms of, what kind of setbacks do they have? What are the features that make that area feel special? I mean, Cook Street, you're fortunate to have giant trees, which turn an otherwise ordinary area to something quite beautiful. But certainly in terms of like the distance of the businesses from the street, allowing that space for patios, and then the scale of those businesses. That's something that we certainly looked at as part of this. So I think that brings us to the end of the questions. Unless anyone has anything that they want to add. Certainly, we invite you all to fill out the survey. One of the realities of this process is we are looking to update it relatively speedy. We're not starting from scratch. We're trying to build on the existing plan, identify what's been working, not working, and really look to update those policies to address those community concerns as well as some of the new directions we received. So certainly welcome you to fill out the survey, come to the open house, share that input right now. And you're welcome to contact us if you have any specific ideas that you want to share by email, or if you're part of a group that wants to set up a meeting, we're certainly happy to do that as well. So I think that's probably it. As you can see on here, here's the kind of key points of contact. Is there anything else you want to add, Abiola?
Yeah, once again, I would like to thank everyone who made it to the event tonight. It's a pleasure to have this turnout and interest in the plan. We will look forward to seeing you at the open house event on Thursday. And if you're unable to attend the Thursday event, there's also another opportunity on Tuesday next week. The first event will take place at St. Luke's Cedar Hill Church, and the other one will be at the Garden Head Recreation Center. Once again, thank you everyone for making um, time out for this engagement opportunity. And we look forward to you participating as a process even progress further. Yeah.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Right. Good night, everyone.